Hi, and welcome back to Express IT Tech. And on today's video, we are going to look at what I believe is the best photo self-hosted option for you. So for years, I've used the likes of Apple Photos or Google Photos or even Amazon when they were doing that as part of their Prime offering. And I found that experience a little bit lackluster, to be honest. It doesn't have all the most advanced features. You're sticking stuff in the cloud. So therefore, at any point, if that service was to terminate, I would lose all of my precious memories, which I certainly don't want to do. Now, I've been planning to do this video for some time, but basically we are going to host Immich. If you're not familiar with Immich, Immich is that amazing, powerful self-hosted option for your home lab. You can obviously utilize this outside of a home lab as well. So if you wanted to just self-host this a different way, then you absolutely can. But the great thing is it does also come with a mobile app as well. So you can absolutely connect to it from anywhere. You can basically publicly expose it as well. So you've got the ability while you're out and about to basically upload your pictures of your loved ones or various other stuff onto there. The great thing is it does stuff like geolocation tracking. It can also pull up the metadata from within your photo, so you can understand exactly what it was taken on, the lens, the ISO, that kind of thing. It pulls all of that information in. So it's a really, really powerful tool. Also got some nice little AI features which can basically map faces. So it'll start to take a picture of who you are. And then it makes it really simple to kind of search. And it does have options for the likes of machine learning. But anyway, without further ado, let's get on with self-hosting. Not take any shortcuts today. We're going to do this exactly as the document says. So if you want to go and look at the instruction guide for how to install Immich, it is available on their website. However, we may skip a few things. You can, if you want to, go to my GitHub and pull my Docker Compose, which is theirs. But obviously, if you're watching this years from now, you might want to pull the most latest. So it's always recommended that you use wget to pull down Docker Compose. Anyway, what we're going to look at is to basically get ourselves pre-prepped for this. So I'm going to create a few directories. So what I have here is basically Ubuntu server with Docker installed. If you need to know how to do that, I've done plenty of videos in the past. Go and watch one of the nice videos up there, and that will help you out. Anyway, what I'm going to do is basically create a folder for it. So all I'm running here is sudo make directory Immich. That's good to go. I'm going to want my password. So let's just get that typed in, put it hung for a moment. And then we've basically got that image file. Now what I'm going to do is cd insert. Now I'm just going to clear the terminal so that we can start at the top. So cd into Immich. And then what we're going to do is run the following commands. Now the commands will all be available on GitHub, but it's also available on that website. So you don't need me to give you the commands. So I'm basically just going to show you how this works. So what we're doing is basically pulling Docker Compose YAML file from that GitHub location and putting it in this directory. So if I do an ls, you can now see it sits in there. It's absolutely fine. What I'm going to then do is basically do the same thing, but for the environment file. Now, if you're not familiar with what an environment file is, it's basically a way that you can pass through environment variables without it being part of your Docker Compose. So if I wanted to share this, like I will be doing, what will happen is I can basically upload my Docker Compose file and just reference environment files, and I can drop passwords in, etc. So it's not really the end of the world from that perspective. Now, this will have created that. So for me to see it, I think it's an LSL or an LSA potentially. Yeah, it's LSA to list all, and you can see I've got the .env file there as well. So again, nice and simple and ready to go. So both of them are now in there. Now, what I'm going to want to do is also install something called pwgen. Now, I'm going to use this. If you've never used it before, it helps me create simple passwords. So sudo apt install pwgen. What it's going to enable me to do is create a password. Now, I'm going to do this before I get too far into the environment file, because what I'm going to want to do is basically capture a password. So using the following command, sudo pwgen, 16 will be the number of characters and one password will be the number of passwords I want. If I turn that to 8, for example, it's going to create me 8 unique passwords. So really nice, simple tool to use. You'll notice as well, it doesn't put special characters in because I've not deferred it to do that. And that's exactly what we're going to need for this environment file. So we're in a good position now that I can go in and edit the environment file. So I'm going to do sudo nano.env. I've copied one of those, and don't worry, this is going to get burned to the ground after I'm done. But basically, this will take you through the environment settings. So what I've got in here is basically all the environment variables I want to specify. There is a couple that are commented out, so like the time zone, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But if you want to uncomment that, you can do, and then change that. What it's looking at for Immich version, it's looking at release, which will be the latest version. But if you want to pin a specific version, like it mentions there, like 1.710, you can absolutely do that. What I'm looking to do though is basically change this password. So as you can see, it's after not having special characters. I'm going to paste that one in I created earlier. So it is unique. I've not made it overly complicated. This doesn't get exposed anywhere either. This is just basically for that database. So it's a Postgres database. It's not accessible apart from internally. So not something to worry about too much. But that is my environment file done. Now, when it comes to the actual Docker Compose YAML file, so again, sudo nano docker compose.yaml. I've got a lot more in here. So there's a few things I need to be aware of. So in the first case, it's looking at the name. The name is basically stating Immich. Now, if you know anything about Docker Compose recently, that has changed dramatically. So by all means, just literally delete it. Anything but for services, apart from the stuff that's uncommented or commented out, isn't going to get read. You're going to get a few warnings basically stating that it's no longer supported. So what we're looking at is a container name of Immich server. That's what it's going to call itself. If you want to rename that, you can. I wouldn't recommend it. Just keep it as it is. You've got a couple of extends in here as well. So these are extended functionality. Now, if you want to utilize these, again, by all means, you can. I'm not going to use this because I'm not using any hardware acceleration for transcoding in here at all. But the options are, it does support NVAT, QuickSync, RKMPP, VAP AI, which is the CPU version, and all that. It's got all that information in there. You'll notice there's an upload location, and we'll come back to that in a moment because that is a variable in the env file. So we'll swap back to that. Pointing at the env file, and this is why I don't need to change the time zone, because what it's doing is looking at local time on my Ubuntu server. Now, if I've not set that right, then it will have a problem. So again, just something to bear in mind. Depends on a couple of, so Redis, which is another container at the bottom here, and the database, which the database, like I mentioned, is Postgres. There's a couple in there that are really simple and easy to learn. You've got an image machine learning module as well. So again, there's some additional tags in there if you want to utilize the hardware acceleration. I'm not going to at this point. I'm quite happy with it just doing what it does. If you've got, say, like a GPU, all you're going to need to do is pass that through your virtual machine. Again, I've done plenty of videos of that on the past. And you should then be able to uncomment a lot of this. If you need to get any of the information, they've got some nice little guides that sit in here that will give you everything you need. It's not overly complicated either, to be honest. The Postgres database, like I mentioned, is basically, again, referencing environment files. So you've got the database password, database username, and the database name all being referenced in there. And then basically the data location. So at the moment, all I need to do is go and look at what the upload location is back in the environment file. But everything in there now should be absolutely fine. So let's have a look. Have a look at that environment file. And it's going to tell me where it's uploading to. So at the moment, it's going to go to home library. Now, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is point it to where I've actually dropped this for now, just so I keep it nice and consistent. But what you could do is you could absolutely set this to a mount location. So again, if you want to put a share in here or mount a share, you can do that. Now, you might not want your deliberate upload directory to be that mount. What you can do off the back of it, if you don't want to do that, is going back into, I'm just going to save that. But going back into the compose file, I could absolutely mount another location in here. So I'm not going to do it, or maybe I will do it, but just comment it out. By the way, don't ever tab. That's bad practice. It's always spaces. What I could do, for example, is mount one that I've done for my personal one, is mount photos, and then basically the same the other way around. So I could deliberately mount a Samba share in there and then just set read only on it. If I wanted to have a different share in there, I can do, and then have it pull in. So if you've got a scenario where you've got dumps from anywhere that you want to pull in, an absolutely nice, easy way to do it. But anyway, that's pretty good, and that should be good to go. So basically, we're going to be porting out to 2283. So that's something we need to bear in mind. Now, I'm currently running on 30.21. So I will remember that. But that looks pretty good to me. There's a couple of things on here as well about the database storage. So if you are running this, and I would never recommend anybody do this anymore these days, if you are running it on a spinny disk, you do need to change that variable in there. However, in most cases now, I think most people are using SSD or NVMEs for this sort of thing. So I'm just going to X out there and then basically do a sudo docker compose up/d, and that should run away in the background. So that's going to pull all of those containers down. We'll have a quick look to see that they're running. And once they're running, we'll navigate to Immich to have a look at what we get out of the box. And then what I'll do is I'll take you to my current environment to show you a little bit more about how it all knits together. Now, I've not been using it too long. It's only something that I've recently deployed, but already I'm really starting to enjoy its use. So here we are, ready to get cracking. So you can see it's up and running. We've got the get started. Going to look for an admin email. So I'm just going to key in an email in here. And there we go. We've got the welcome Express IT Tech. Let's get your instance set up with some common settings. So we start with theme. No, we're not doing that. Start mode it is. Language. You can select your language in here. Obviously, yeah, very English, so I'll go with that. We've got server privacy. So there's a couple of options on here. As you can see in here, this does give you this. So if you don't want these features, it's something to be aware of. Obviously, the version check will always check with GitHub. You can turn that off if you want, so you're happy running whatever version there is. You can obviously go and do that update yourself, then fine. But the map feature relies on that service as well. I'm going to use it because I just want that. It's quite useful. There's also this optional feature as well. So if I want to allow it to external sources to actually Google Cast it, I can turn that on or off. And then we've got storage templates. Now, this is quite an interesting one. Now, I did turn this on in my live environment. It's totally up to you how you do it. But basically, this enables you to pretty much determine how you want the stuff to be stored. So it will go down different various routes. So you can set presets on it stating the year, the month, the week, day, hour, minute, second. It does have some other variables it passes in as well. And then you can select the kind of template it's going to do. So I actually quite like this one. So I am going to use this because it's quite nice and simple and straightforward. You don't have to use it. But there you are, and you're ready to go. Now, at the moment, you can see I don't have a massive amount of storage space in here because obviously this is just something that I've just spun up very quickly and I wanted to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload maybe the thumbnail that I've used for this video. So I'm just going to drop that in there. As you can see, my thumbnail is now on here. If it could recognize the person, it can go up and it can pull that down. You can also state when I created that thumbnail as well, which was yesterday. Now, obviously, this is a picture that I made, so it's not going to be able to pull any metadata that's any use. But what I can do, let's say, for example, if I picked on a picture, is let's drop a picture in here, for example, and I'll just find an older picture of, say, myself. If I can find one that's suitable. We'll talk about the suitability things later. Let's see if I can find a good, normal looking one, which might take me some time. Oh God, that's, yeah. I don't know what I was doing at this point, but this is quite an old photo. Yeah, so that was 2015. As you can see, I was definitely a bit of a ladies' man then now, right? So what I can do on this picture is obviously I can zoom in. I can click on the metadata so I can see when it was taken, what it was taken with as well. So I can see at the time that was a Sony D6603. Pretty sure it was some kind of camera phone I had at the time, maybe something else. Megapixels, so I can see it was in 4K, and various other stuff. It will also work out who I am. So if I go to explore a bit later, you will start to see some people appear in this later. So it will take a while. It does some stuff in the background when this kind of happens. But that's how that works. And it kind of just builds a nice little scenario. Anyway, let's flip over to my already done instance so you can see how that all knits together. So when I click into the one I produced earlier, now my daughter has been insisting that she's going to become a YouTube star. So it's fine. She's allowed on here. Not too much of a problem. This is probably as far as she'll get with the YouTube star bit at the moment. She's adorable, bless her. But basically, if I click on explore now, you can see that I can go and find and click on my daughter, and it will basically find all of the locations that she appears. And it is, to be honest, it's pretty good. So what it can do is it will pick stuff out. I've even noticed that it will pick out like the small little bits where somebody might just about appear in the frame. It's very, very good at doing that. So yeah, that picks out pretty much everything that you would need there. If I go to map, for example, now this is just a couple of examples. I've not uploaded all my photos yet. I've definitely been to a few more places than this. But let's say I click on Germany. This is a few years back when I went to Oktoberfest and we went into Munich afterwards and went to the Allianz Arena. So yeah, I'm not a Bayern Munich fan. I'm a massive Liverpool fan, but it was interesting to be able to go and witness that. And if I click on the eye, again, you can see I took it with a Samsung phone back then, so I think this was probably my S22 or something like that I had at the time. And you can see exactly where I was in Germany and the date I was there. So it's really nice to be able to kind of pull in that information. So yeah, really, really useful. You've got the sharing, so you can see what I'm sharing at the moment. So this is now when I'm sharing with my wife, so she can actually see that, which is our wedding day. That's all in there. I've already made a folder for Turkey. I'm going there very, very soon. Actually, I might be there while this is uploaded. And then a walk that I did not that long ago, which was just basically a 52K walk that I did, and all these pictures that were taken with my iPhone Pro Max. So you can kind of see, I can flick through them and it'll actually show the geolocation for them at the bottom. It's quite nice to actually be able to also track yourself as well. So if you ever wanted to know where that photo was taken, you can absolutely just click on these and it will guide you through, which is pretty cool to be able to do that, to be totally honest. It's a lovely day that day when I went out for a walk. It was like early May, as you can tell. And yeah, the weather was absolutely fantastic. Really nice to get out and about there at the time. Yeah, that's just some photos from there. When it comes to favorites, you can obviously add some favorites in. Utilities, it will also find duplicates. So it can duplicate your scenarios for you. So that's really nice. And then you've got the archive. So if you want to archive folders or photos, you can absolutely do that. You've got a locked folder as well. So if you do want to keep some more of those risque type photos, then you've got the ability to do that. Don't need to do that. And then the trash, which you can see some really old pictures, and these are the duplicated ones. So when I said earlier that this was good at finding duplicates, what this has done is basically found pictures of my daughter from when she was very young, where I've got multiple occasions of that, and it's add them in here and I can empty the trash. So that's going to start deleting those assets for me. Storage space, you can see on mine, I have linked in some of my external storage. So I have mounted this to a Samba share. That's really useful in there. So it's just really powerful in the fact it's done that. At the top, we've obviously got some settings we can go and change, and then the awful light mode if anybody likes that, and then the dark mode that sits at the top. But that's as simple as it is. Now, when it comes to the phone app, I'll just take you through that a little bit. But again, the same process pretty much works. Now, there are a few additional settings if you want to run it on Pangolin. If you want to do that, there's a few guides online on how to do it, but you basically have to stick some additional headers in. So that was my whistle-stop tour on how to install Immich. Now, it is an absolutely solid application. I have really, really enjoyed deploying it. It's really simple to do. Obviously, you've got the ability to use hardware acceleration if you want to do that. So if you've got an old graphics card laying around, you can absolutely use that to help with the machine learning and also the kind of transcoding if you are going to put videos on it, because it can handle videos as well. But what I wanted to be able to do is kind of take away from utilizing something like Google Photos, OneDrive, any of those kind of tools that basically you can store your pictures in. But obviously then you're submitting to the likes of Microsoft or Google to host and hold those photos for you. And as we've found out over many times over the past few years, if you subscribe to something, it doesn't mean you own it. If anybody's ever subscribed to the likes of Adobe, if you happen to leave Adobe at any point in time, you can pretty much kiss goodbye to your data unless you pull it down before that happens. So it's just one of those things to be aware of. At least this way, I can be guaranteed that I can keep it here. Now, the other good thing is with Immich, what you can do is you can link it to external platforms as well. If you still want to back it up to the likes of Google Drive, then you can do that. So you've got almost a 3-2-1 backup solution, because you may have the picture on your phone. You've then got it on your server, which is hosted on a hard drive or some NVMe storage. And then finally, you may then back it up to a cloud service as well. So it's a nice, easy way to kind of treasure and keep those memories. Because let's be honest, pictures are probably one of the most important parts of data, because you certainly can't recreate some of those moments that you've had, albeit a lot of people will try. Anyway, that's my video. If you have liked this one, please hit the like and subscribe. And as always, I will see you next time.